2 years ago, if someone had asked me about my life, I would have confidently said everything was falling into place. I was 30, had a steady career, a supportive group of friends, and was engaged to a woman I believed would soon become my wife. Her name was S, and for years, I'd thought of her as the missing piece that completed my life. We had planned out our future together, and with our wedding only a week away, I was happily anticipating the start of our new life. It was an ordinary night. I was getting ready to go to bed when I received a text from S. It seemed strange that she was texting me from down the hall, but I didn't think much of it. As I opened the message, I felt my chest tighten. "I can't do this anymore. I'm in love with someone else," it read. I remember staring at the screen, reading those words over and over, hoping I had misunderstood. But the reality hit me like a punch to the gut. She was ending our relationship just days before we were supposed to be married. For a long while, I sat there, feeling a mixture of disbelief, shock, and a deep ache that seemed to settle into my bones. My life, my plans, and everything I thought I knew had just been ripped apart by a single text message. I didn't even want to know who the someone else was. I just couldn't wrap my head around the idea of losing her so suddenly. The next day, I found out the truth. It wasn't S who told me, nor did it come from anyone else. Instead, I pieced it together myself. The someone else was none other than my best friend. He had been a constant presence in my life, visiting often, sharing drinks, talking about the future, and listening as I shared my dreams of a life with S. Never in my wildest dreams had I thought he would betray me like this. They had been seeing each other behind my back, and all the signs I might have missed came rushing back in painful clarity. The betrayal was a double-edged sword. It wasn't only that the woman I loved had fallen for someone else, but that she had chosen the one person I thought I could trust implicitly. There was no dramatic confrontation, no shouting or arguments. I canceled the wedding, blocked their numbers, and attempted to erase every trace of them from my life. I didn't need any more words or apologies. Their actions spoke volumes. S's messages kept coming, one after another. She tried to explain, apologized repeatedly, and begged for another chance. But the damage was done, and I couldn't even bring myself to respond. I blocked her as well, knowing there was nothing left to salvage. The weeks that followed were difficult, to put it mildly. I found myself drifting, a hollow version of the person I had once been. The house we had shared felt vast and empty, filled with memories that taunted me at every turn. I went through the motions of trying to erase her from my life. Her clothes, books, personal items, all of it went into the trash. Yet the memories refused to fade, clinging stubbornly to my mind. In an attempt to escape, I buried myself in work. I became the first to arrive and the last to leave, taking on extra projects to keep my mind occupied. My co-workers noticed, but didn't pry. I think they understood, at least in part, that I was going through something I needed to handle alone. Social gatherings, once a source of joy, became something I actively avoided. Seeing couples and hearing friends talk about their relationships only deepened my loneliness. But as time passed, the pain began to lose its sharpness. I still carried the scars, but I felt like I was slowly beginning to heal. Bit by bit, I re-entered life. I reconnected with friends, allowed myself to laugh, and took steps toward trusting people again, though I remained guarded. Then, nearly 2 years after that life-altering text, I met H. She wasn't like S at all. She was steady, kind, and honest in a way that felt new and refreshing. We met through mutual friends, and though there wasn't an immediate spark, something about her put me at ease. We began dating slowly, and over time, I realized I wanted to spend more and more time with her. She didn't play games, didn't keep me guessing, and with her, I felt safe. With H, I discovered that love could be calm, consistent, and genuine. Everything I'd been searching for without even realizing it. I hadn't wanted to repeat the same mistakes as I did in my previous relationship with S. But H was different. She brought calm and stability to my life, giving me a sense of peace I hadn't felt before. I wasn't constantly worried or questioning my self-worth around her. She had this gentle presence, like a soothing balm to the chaotic memories of my past. I found comfort in the quiet simplicity she brought, a reminder that love didn't always have to be intense or tumultuous. As time passed, I found myself growing closer to H in a way that felt deeply reassuring. Unlike the overwhelming infatuation I once had with S, this was something more grounded, more lasting. With H, I felt a sense of safety and stability. She made me believe that I could finally let go of the heartbreak and start anew. After a year of being together, we decided to get married. Our wedding wasn't an elaborate event like the one I had envisioned with S. Instead, it was a small, intimate gathering with close friends and family. And standing there, hand in hand with H, I realized that love didn't need grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Real love was steady, patient, and unwavering. It was about building a future together, brick by brick, day by day. For the first time in years, I felt truly happy and at peace. I had found something real, something I believed could last. Just as I began to feel I had closed a chapter on my past, S reappeared in my life. 2 years had passed without a word from her. 2 years of silence, of healing, and of moving on. But one day, out of the blue, I received a message from an unknown number. As soon as I read the first line, I knew who it was. S wrote that she had made a mistake. She was sorry for what happened between us and wanted to talk. She told me her relationship with my former friend had ended and that she still had feelings for me. She asked if we could meet just to talk. My first reaction was anger. After all this time, after all the pain she caused, how could she reach out now? I had moved on. I was happy with H, and I didn't want her to need her apologies. I didn't even respond to the message. I didn't want her to think she still had a hold over me. But as the days passed, her messages continued. Each one was longer, more emotional, filled with remorse about how she had made the wrong choice, about how she had realized too late that I was the one she truly loved. Initially, I tried to ignore it. I blocked her number, hoping that would be the end of it, but she found ways around it. She emailed me, messaged me on social media, and even showed up at my office once. Each time, I turned her away without engaging, determined not to get pulled back into the drama. I didn't owe her anything, and I was content to keep my distance. Then one Saturday afternoon, she came to my house. H was out running errands, and I was alone. When the doorbell rang, I assumed it was a neighbor or a delivery, but when I opened the door, there she stood. S looked worn out, as if she'd come from a long journey. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes were wrinkled, and her eyes held a desperate, pleading look. I froze. Seeing her standing there felt surreal, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I found myself suddenly thrust back into the turmoil of my past, but I wasn't the same man anymore. The person I used to be would have crumbled under her manipulations, but I had learned, grown, and was no longer vulnerable to her tactics. As soon as she started speaking, her words poured out in a chaotic torrent, filled with confessions and pleas. She said she missed me, that she still loved me, and that leaving me for someone else had been a terrible mistake. She begged for another chance, insisting that we could start over and repair what was broken. But I was finished. Calmly, yet with unwavering conviction, I told her that there was nothing left to fix, that I had moved on, and that I was happy now with H. I didn't want to reopen old wounds. I explained that she needed to leave and warned that any further harassment would force me to take legal action. My refusal shook her, and she grew emotional, pleading with me to reconsider. But I stood firm. I wasn't the man she had once left. I had learned to defend my happiness, my peace. Eventually, she realized her efforts were futile and left, though not without a final attempt to manipulate me. She warned that I was making a mistake by choosing H over her. Despite her words, I felt nothing but relief. As a precaution, I filed a restraining order to keep her from disrupting the life I had built with H. I had no intention of letting her drag me back into the darkness I had fought so hard to escape. H deserved better, and so did I. We had built a life together, one filled with love, respect, and the kind of peace I wouldn't sacrifice for anything. For a while, life returned to normal. She stopped contacting me, and I began to hope that she had finally moved on. But one day, everything was interrupted again. I received a call from the police. She had been arrested for violating the restraining order after attempting to break into my home while I was at work. A neighbor spotted her and alerted the authorities. Standing in my living room that evening, I looked around at the life H and I had created together and felt a wave of gratitude for the journey I had taken. I had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and the chaos of my past. More importantly, I had learned to protect my happiness and to value the life I had fought to rebuild. She was no longer a part of my story, just a painful chapter that had finally closed. The life I had now was with H, and that was what mattered most. I'm sharing this because I know there are others who have walked a similar path. Betrayal leaves deep scars, but it doesn't have to define you. You have the power to rebuild, to move forward, and to protect your happiness. Happiness isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about building a life with someone who respects you, values you, and makes you feel safe. I found that with H, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. To anyone out there haunted by their past, know that you deserve happiness, and no one has a right to take it from you. Be strong. You are worth it.